the amount of shit hate I get is so intense, and I never acknowledge it and I never talk about it. There's a lot of emotion that I never processed from all that, because it was like I think people think my life is so easy or something, and that I have money or whatever, so they're just I can just be a total punching bag. Or maybe it's because I did the roast. We get paid to try to entertain people, so when people are not getting paid and their hobby is just to trash the people that are trying to spread joy, it's it sucks a little bit, because then I go well, who am I doing this for?
Guys, how did we get here? I mean, what exactly is going on? We're 5 minutes into the new year. Katt Williams called out Joe Rogan and said the quiet bit out loud. Tom Segura cancelled Dr. Drew. Dave Chappelle and Ricky Gervais dropped comedy specials that couldn't be further apart. And Stephen Hawking has been accused of defying physics.
That's how it was for blue comedy. If you were a comedian that cussed, you were ridiculed by the mainstream comedy geist. That would be like me being on Joe Rogan. Joe don't want me on there. I need to be on Shannon. Joe got 6 comedians that never been funny. He want to push out. But that's really how it is.
This is probably the single greatest moment in the short history of this channel. Just like that, Katt Williams said what we've all been thinking all along, and don't let the significance go over your head. I don't think there's ever been a comedian at that level who explicitly and undeniably called out Rogan like that. But Rogan replied to Katt on Twitter saying, "I love Katt, he's one of my favorite comics and I'd love to have him on. We talk about him all the time. If he's down, I'll make it happen." However, from what I've seen in the tweet replies and the few commentary channels that have covered this drama so far, a lot of people have been praising Rogan for taking ownership of what Katt said, not backing down, etc., etc. And I actually don't agree with any of that. Rogan didn't have a choice. This is new territory for Rogan. Rarely has he been called out like this from one of his own. And all of this couldn't have come at a better time. The Brogan comedy brats whom Katt was referring to are starting to crumble. So I'm going to show you just how toxic this so-called Rogan effect really is, and how Joe is more interested in satisfying his own ego rather than actually helping out his buddies. This actually happened to Mr. Beast as well, but more on that in a little bit. I'll take you through all those details, because there are 2 comedians who are beating the Rogan effect, but for different reasons. And once you understand the power of breaking free from Rogan's orbit and still being able to make it on your own, you'll quickly realize who the real ones are, the last men standing.
All right, this guy I'm bringing on stage is so funny, he got canceled at the beginning of his career. Please welcome from almost Saturday Night Live, Shane Gillis. Now, Shane.
Hey.
I'm gonna keep my comments brief.
All right.
Shane, you once did a joke that I love, and I hate making requests. I saw you do a joke about Donald Trump getting shot.
All right. Try to remember it.
He said he would die funny.
Yeah.
I don't know if he dies in the joke.
No. I said, of all the presidents, I think it's fair to say Donald Trump would be the funniest one to see get shot. Just because he'd be in the middle of a speech talking shit. Just, you're gay. The shooter would be coming at him and be like, sit down, get down. What a loser, get down, sit down. But just the noise he would make when he got hit, even if you love Donald Trump, it would be funny. As soon as he got hit, he'd be like, ah! But the rest of the joke, which is my favorite part that didn't really... A lot of people didn't like it. It was Biden. I think Biden's the first president you could punch assassinate. You just walk right up to him and be like, Mr. President, how the f*** are you doing?
That's got to be a career highlight for Shane Gillis. I mean, having one of the goats of comedy request a joke and proceed to literally spin around in laughter, oh man, that hits different. But before I move into the Rogan effect and the disaster that it has become, I wanted to say a few words about Dave Chappelle's latest comedy special called The Dreamer, which I watched 3 times this week, and it made me go back and re-watch Ricky Gervais' special called Armageddon, which I reviewed last week as well, and I also re-watched Shane Gillis' most recent special called Beautiful Dogs for the 50th time, which is only his second special, mind you. So then all in all, I've watched a few comedy specials this week, and here's what I noticed. Chappelle and Gillis both looked like they were just having fun. Sure, they're at opposite ends of their careers, but you can't fake that sort of genuine happiness just to be on stage holding a mic telling jokes. Contrast that with Ricky Gervais, whose special was still okay, far from his best work, but he just seemed like he was ticking boxes and rage baiting all the snowflakes into calling him out. It's like he had a list of people he wanted to offend and then went to work. Interestingly though, I caught an interview he did with the Oxford Union from 6 years ago, where he basically outlined his path back into stand-up comedy after taking a long break to pursue his Hollywood dreams.
But now, I don't know why, but it's number 1 on my list. Now I could give up TV and film to just do stand-up because I love it more than ever. I don't know why. I realise what a privilege it is. It's sort of the last bastion of self-censorship outside the novel. You know, what you say is what they hear. There's no one interfering. It's a good time. It's a really good time for stand-up.
Now, as you guys know, I'm not one to read too much into the things that these guys say, right? But that last little bit seems a little bit sinister. I think he smelt a business opportunity in re-entering the stand-up comedy scene, knowing that the West was becoming increasingly divided and he could profit from it. Now, you guys know I'm a big Ricky D fan, but I call it how I see it. I mean, the guy literally pulls his phone out on stage and reads from his Twitter replies. Then he'll walk over to sip his beer and read from his notes. Like, seriously, dude, you're a comedy veteran and you can't remember your 50-minute set? Chappelle went for over 6 hours once with nothing but a mic, a stool, and a packet of smokes, and he didn't even end up humping the stool. And so creativity in comedy specials has become a thing of the past. Now it's one big race to offend. TikTok comedian Matt Rife rage-baited female journalists into giving his latest comedy special free publicity. Bert Kreischer crapped his pants on stage and wiped it with a white t-shirt and then held it up for everyone to see. And Tom Segura made a documentary about himself which featured his personal trainer crying because he couldn't put into words just how much he loves his boss.
Working with Tom is, I mean, you really can't ask for anything better. I can't, man. I mean, it's... Fuck yeah.
Now, just to be completely clear, that wasn't his agent, that wasn't his manager, it wasn't even a fellow comedian. That was his fitness trainer. Guys, this is the state of comedy in 2024. A bunch of narcissistic, self-congratulatory egomaniacs who used to trash Hollywood only to become the living embodiment of Hollywood 2.0. So that's why when Chappelle dropped his latest special, I watched it again and again and again. Even though it wasn't his best work, you could see him working with the audience. It was a nice, intimate setting, recorded at the Lincoln Theatre in Washington, D.C. You could see the crowd clearly. The laughing didn't sound uniform like Ricky Gervais' special. That one sounded like it had a laugh track and you never saw anyone actually laughing. As for Chappelle's special though, I could tell a few people changed around in the front rows because it would have been recorded over several nights and edited together, of course, but you'd honestly have to be looking for it, and it doesn't really impact the show, right? And the last 20 minutes was one long story. It made it feel like he just rocked up to his local comedy club to work on some material. I absolutely loved it. Even though he got preachy, it was still funny as hell. Shout out to Lil Nas X. And the way Shane Gillis is developing is wild. The best comedians know how to use silence to their advantage, and you can tell Shane's becoming more comfortable with letting his jokes just sit for a moment. I noticed that straight away, and people complain about this, but I actually like the way he laughs at his own jokes. You know, the way he'll have a little chuckle here and there. It makes it feel more conversational and shows he's having a good time. and straight away, as soon as he walked out, you could see and feel the crowd. Big contrast with Ricky Gervais. Also, just from a production perspective, the lighting was great, his outfit was nice and simple, and it suited his personality. All these little bits and pieces make it easier to watch and focus on his comedy. Now, Shane's very good at tackling political issues without taking a side, and I think the key is self-deprecating humor. Whenever he punches down, he always slips himself in underneath, and he's not afraid to laugh at himself. I've said this before, but Shane Gillis's impression of Trump is so good that it feels like Trump is now impersonating Gillis, and his Aussie accent is pretty brutal.
Now, Australia ruled. I only had one negative experience while I was there, and it was I got bullied. I got made fun of publicly by a goth. They still have goths, dude. Full on black trench coat, black eyeliner, and he made fun of me. I'll give him credit in his defense. The reason he was making fun of me is because I was wearing a bucket hat. I had never done that before. There were no black people on the island. I was taking fashion chances the whole time. That's the thing about these countries. I was just in England, Scotland, Ireland, Australia. No black people. And I know what you're thinking. No. No, you need black people. You need black people to keep the whites in check. The last thing you want is a whole island of whites that think they're the coolest people on earth. It's a disaster. That's how you end up with Conor McGregor's walking around like, It's like, shut up, dude. The foreign whites are out of control.
Now, thanks to Shane Gillis, I'm legitimately scared of gay Vikings. Thank God I live on an island. Oh, hang on, wait. Anyway, don't worry about that, because like I said at the beginning, I want to focus on what Katt Williams said about Rogan pushing unfunny hack comics into the stratosphere and explore the damage that Rogan has done under the guise of helping out his buddies. Shane Gillis went on Bussin' with the Boys in November of 2022, and they started talking about the Rogan bump, which is how much of a boost you get when you go on JRE as a guest. Now, this is something that has been speculated on, articles have been written about it, studies have been done, but by far the best explanation I've found was from Gillis in this interview. So, like I said, this was recorded at the end of 2022 after Shane had been on JRE 5 times that year, and what I found interesting about Shane's response was that he claimed he didn't get much of a bump from that first appearance. Remember this?
If I get fired here, whatever, I'll just go do Joe Rogan next week and I'll be fine. Anyway, I thought that was funny. No?
What?
I was like, I literally...
Is that what you thought?
I literally thought that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought it would be funny.
Well, it could have been funny.
Yeah.
I was booked up, though.
No, it was fine. It was just funny to truly... That was a conversation I actually had.
Really?
In Lorne Michaels' office in the middle of that.
That's hilarious.
Now, just before I go ahead, I'm not going to actually play this clip for you guys because Barstool are really aggressive with their copyright claims, and normally I dispute them and fight back, but I never use their clips, so it's not really worth the time, money, and effort just for this one here. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of like a commercial decision, if you like. But I'll put a link in the description for you because it's actually really insightful if you're interested in the Rogan bump. However, I do have the full transcript, and so this is how Shane explains it. He said, I did Rogan once and the episode was not great. I was nervous. We talked about SNL. I was just nervous. I never met him really, so it was just a one-on-one and it was bad. It wasn't good. And this is where it got interesting. He went on to say, if you have a bad episode, you don't see a bump. I mean, you'll get a bump like 10,000 followers or something like that. But then we started doing me, Ari, and Norman with him, and it's more of a party. So that makes sense, right? I've probably said this myself in the past, and I've definitely had this opinion, but the idea that just going on JRE once is going to blow you up overnight, whilst it has happened that way in the past, that certainly wasn't the case for Shane. But I'll come back to that because he went on to say something that caught my eye as well. He was asked about little cliques in the comedy world, sort of like little comedy groups, almost like Mean Girls, and his response was, before I was with the guys I'm with now, so like Rogan and all those LA comics that were like Rogan and Bird and Segura and all these guys, before I met them, I was an open micer in Philly. I'd be sitting there like, screw those guys, they're not that good, they suck. And then they're like, hey, you're pretty good. So then you're like, dude, you guys are the best. I love you guys so much. Okay, so I completely get what he meant there, right? He even elaborated a little bit, explaining that, you know, he was a little salty, those guys are super successful, and he had a bit of arrogance before he blew up and got famous. But here's the thing, and let me know if you guys think I'm on the right track or not with this take. I think a little bit of Shane still thinks all those LA comics like Rogan, Bird, and Segura are kinda cringy. Sure, he's buddies with them and they all hang out, but for me, Shane doesn't really fit in with all of them. I mean, we've seen how awkward it gets when he's on Flagrant with Schultz and the Toy Story boys. Granted, they're not LA comics, they're New York comics, which is where Shane lived for a while. But don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to tell Shane who he should or shouldn't be friends with. If he's happy, right? Good luck to him. He deserves everything he's getting right now. But there's no doubt in my mind that he sometimes thinks to himself, what am I doing hanging out with these clowns? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into it too much. What are you going to do? But there was one thing he did mention in that interview, which I've heard a dozen times from various people, including from Papa Rogan himself. Shane said, Joe Rogan's like the man at like helping. If he thinks you're funny, he'll help you. There's a lot of guys that are like big and famous that would be like, yeah, try to keep the new guys down. Yeah, I can't let you get too big. He's one that's delighted if things are going well for other people. See, Rogan thinks he's helping these comics. He thinks he's doing good for them. Hey, you're funny. You should quit your job and become a full-time comedian and start a podcast. And it sounds like a nice thing to do, right? You're pumping somebody up, helping them to achieve their life goals. But the reality is you're setting them up for failure because it's not organic. It's not real. It's you holding their hand and taking them for a walk onto the big stage, and then when Papa Rogan lets go and they have to swim in the deep end on their own, they inevitably sink. This is how we end up with all of these public meltdowns and podcast therapy sessions that are so difficult to watch without cringing. I mean, if you can make it through this coping montage I put together for you guys with a straight face, let me know in the comments below so I can personally congratulate you for your valor, stoicism, and bravery.
I just had a 50th birthday party. There was like 50 people at the party.
Ooh, that you kept it tight.
I kept it tight.
Because you could have extended.
We could have, really blown it out. But
yeah. What do you spend on something like that? What do you spend on a nice little 50th birthday party? I mean, it's not 10 G's. Like you wouldn't just spend 10 grand on a little 50th birthday party.
I'm not into pricing.
Yeah, he's not comfortable with this.
He said, okay, I can't do stand-up, but this isn't stand-up, so I shouldn't do stand-up like this because there's no audience. So the key to this, and he figured it out. He's like, the key to this is you got to hit it fast. The punchlines have to come one after the other after the other. It's got to be fast-paced and with images. So like he would use all these visuals while he was hitting punchline after punchline.
Oh, wow.
He figured out a new way to do comedy. He figured out a way to do internet, Instagram, 10-minute comedy.
But that's not, like you say, that's not stand-up.
No.
Like this thing that you're describing, God bless him.
Yeah.
That's not what I do.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
It's different.
Dude, I'll copy and paste tour dates in the comment section and be like, pull up. Like I'm waiting to fight somebody at a venue. I can't wait.
Okay.
Cannot wait, dude.
You gotta let that go, dude.
I know that's me being 27 and egotistical, but it's just like I can't stay. I threatened to somebody's grandma one time.
All right, see, I wouldn't even tell you, if when the camera's off and we leave, I wouldn't even tell you what I spent on my 50th birthday party.
But you want to know what I spent on my wedding.
I don't care.
You do a little bit.
I really don't.
Just a little bit. Just a tiny bit.
We're out there in Arizona, we're cooling, chilling by the pool, and all of a sudden people start hitting me up. They're like, yo, Chappelle's on Rogan, and he's hating on you, bro. He's throwing shade at you, right? Joe's describing this like kind of YouTube or Instagram comedy, and you know how we all are. The second you tell me about like a funny YouTuber or a funny Instagrammer, we're like, I don't give a fuck what that shit is, a little slideshow.
We stand-ups,
Exactly, we're stand-ups. So it's just like, I understand that first reaction, right?
The amount of shit hate I get is so intense, and I never acknowledge it and I never talk about it. But like, I think every now and then, I think when I'm around people, like I love that I know won't like judge me or like make fun of me. Like, there's a lot of emotion that I never like processed from all that, because it was like,
Why are you so affected by something that's is said to you online?
I don't check it a lot. I think.
Well, what is it? Do you want to talk about what it is?
Sure.
Can you just be? Like,
I can't.
Just be and just enjoy the day.
Leanne said to me the other day, she goes, let's sit on the porch and read a book. I go, read a book?
Yeah.
About me? You want me to read my book about me? I'll do that. Am I in Tom's book? I'll read his book. I'm not going to sit there and read a Huck Finn novel.
Yeah.
I was like, I just don't get it.
But then when Joe's like, no, he's a stand-up, it's different, and he found a way to evolve within the times. And then I think he was a little bit dismissive to it, and he was like, that's not my type of comedy, that's not what I do. And I guess the only pushback I would give there to Dave is that, like, Dave is a household name, not because of stand-up, but because of a different type of comedy.
Like, I think people think my life is like so easy or something, and that I have like money or whatever. So they're just like, I can just be a total punching bag. Or maybe it's because I did the roast. We get paid to try to entertain people. So when people are not getting paid and their hobby is just to trash the people that are trying to spread joy, it's like, it sucks a little bit, because then I go like, well, who am I doing this for? Like, why
Well,
am
you're
I
doing it
this?
for all the people that love it, need it,
Yeah.
and get a laugh and a smile. But the truth of the matter is,
Like, who's mean to a clown? Like, I'm a clown. We're clown. Like, I'm a clown.
Everybody.
I don't think
Everyone's
I don't
mean
think
to
they're
clowns.
mean to
everybody.
Look, I need the reminder too. When I say this thing, it's not about
I would
giving
love your pace of life. Well, no, but like, hang on. Well, okay, so like, perfect example.
I signed up for the craziest tour.
Yeah, but my tour's as crazy, and I fly to Austin once a month to do a podcast, and and you're right, I overpack my schedules.
Yeah,
like we all have a crazy tour. You have your. I wish I didn't have a fear of flying. I wish that was number one.
I'm so confrontational as a person. Like, it drives me insane. I can't beat the out of these people.
Yeah.
But then you have to sit back and go, well, I'm really allowing these people to determine how I feel throughout my day.
You gotta, like,
and it's f***ing pathetic.
Exactly. Look, you're literally living your dream.
Yeah, of course.
And it's like, you can't let someone's bitterness or negativity suck that joy out of you.
And let me just explain something. Comedy, by virtue of what comedy is, the comedy only comes from negativity. It is only negative. That's why comedy and tragedy is together. If you're laughing at a clown falling down in the circus, you're laughing at the misfortune of somebody you don't know. If you're laughing at somebody getting a pie in the face, it's because just the average joke of two guys walking to a bar, it's not going to be a joke unless something awkward or embarrassing happens to one of them. That's why we laugh.
I think the takeaway from this is I'm not going to get a Chappelle chain anytime soon. and you know what? I can live with that. I think I'll be okay. And if Dave wants to rethink that, then, we can have that discussion.
Yeah.
The nastiest thing you can say to a comedian is they're not funny. The second nastiest thing you can say to a comedian is you don't deserve to be famous. Watching that edit was like watching a bunch of children who were told by their parents that they're the greatest thing ever, they're the best at everything, they're going to cruise through life because everyone will love you, and then when they become adults and go into the real world, only to realize from one rude shock to another that they're just ordinary, average people like you and me. But in this case, they've been told by Joe Rogan and whichever other rich and famous comedians they know that they're funny. So as a result, they grow on social media, they have a bunch of fans who send them nothing but love, and then their reach starts to grow through the Rogan bump and social media algorithms. Now they're reaching a larger audience who don't think they're as smart, funny, and good looking as they thought they were, and they tell them. They start getting all of the hate. Seriously, go and read the comment sections of any upload from Tom, Bert, Brendan Schaub, or Whitney Cummings. It's overwhelmingly negative. There's more comedy in the comment section than the video itself. So that's when it dawns on them that maybe this whole thing was based on the false premise that I'm something I'm not. This is why we see these Whitney Cummings meltdowns. It's honestly hard to watch, and I don't even hate these guys. I really do feel for them in a way because they kept putting their hand up saying, I want more, Papa Rogan help me, put me on stage, and when they reach the big time it slowly turns into a hate fest because we're getting sick and tired of being told by the elite comedy class who should make us laugh, who we should buy tickets to see, and which podcast we should be listening to. People have had enough, and it all started with that highly sought after Rogan bump. Let me give you just one more example from a different universe that'll make it crystal clear before I tie this up and get back to Katt Williams. Mr. Beast has been known to shout out other YouTubers, whether it's from some sort of challenge, or he's just being nice and pulls your channel out of a bowl with names on it to help out all these smaller channels. One of those channels was Amelia and Bridie, who were just over 400 subscribers when Mr. Beast changed their lives. Almost overnight, their channel jumped from, get this, only 400 subs to over 100,000. That's insane, right? Like, just imagine that. So why did they end up deleting their channel? And what about another channel called Nolterdeeds? He just had under 1,500 subscribers when Mr. Beast gave his channel a shout out, which went up to almost 150,000 within 24 hours. So why did he stop uploading videos 18 months later? And then there's Sayan Osman, who had less than 250 subs before Mr. Beast shouted him out, skyrocketing to almost 200,000 within 24 hours. But yeah, he disappeared completely as well. Now, these are pretty extreme examples, right? But the concept is the same for the Rogan bump. His buddies got all of this attention, particularly during the pandemic when everyone was glued to their screens, but now that traffic is falling off. I called this less than 2 weeks ago when I said that Tom Segura would need to start downsizing YMH because they lost around 2/3 of their views throughout 2023 and their ad revenue is in freefall. And what do you know? Dr. Drew is the first one on the chopping block for 2024. The same thing is happening to Burt, Schultz, and of course the worst of the Brogan comedy brats, Brendan Schaub. But not Shane Gillis. See, he's part of the Brogan bubble, but he's got his own audience outside of Rogan's audience. That's the key to surviving the Rogan effect. Dave Chappelle is even further removed, similar to Bill Burr and Louis C.K. All of those guys worked hard for years to build up their audiences, and they never needed Rogan in the first place. So while Katt Williams absolutely nailed it in calling out Rogan for pushing hack comics on JRE, it's not all sunshine and rainbows for those guys. And that's how Chappelle and Gillis beat Rogan. I wouldn't be surprised if Shane ditches all those guys in the next few years. I mean, just look at his podcast numbers. 364,000 subs, and almost every episode gets more than that in views within 7 days of uploading. Now that's sustainable. Anyway, I wonder if Katt will actually go on JRE after Rogan gave him an open invite. On the one hand, I can see Katt rejecting it and just moving on, but I can also imagine him going on there and just speaking his mind, and you just know what Rogan will say, right? Comedy's subjective, you might not find my buddies funny, but I think they are, blah, blah, blah. And then he'll just suck up to Katt and tell a bunch of old stories about how cool he thinks he is, and yeah, you get the idea. So that's my breakdown of this whole situation. It sounds like 2024 is going to be a pretty big turning point for the Brogan comedy brats, but let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments below, and if you haven't subscribed yet, consider jumping on board so you get all my uploads right there in your feed. That's it from me, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.
It was fun playing with you guys.
We beat you.
Finally. That's right. We beat you because we're friends with Joe Rogan. So the story of our careers. We didn't have to try out for a team. We got picked. Our dad owns the league. We didn't do anything during this.
It's like those F1 drivers who like their dads just buy the race team. It's hilarious. What you were saying?
No.
What?
That was a fun game.
It was fun.